Today's video contains some adult subject matter. You might want to get the kids out of the room for this. And I will try to keep this as rated PG as I possibly can. Hello, I am the Reverend Elaine Njerve-Zack, and this is my 15th video for Revelation Faithbook. Today I will be speaking about something I feel very sensitive about: corporal punishment. Probably wondering why I have this in my hand. Well, it talks about the rod in the Bible. And a lot of people think it has something to do with hitting. This video is going to be a real tough one for me to do. I have done 10 years of research on this. And what I found out, I'm just going to put it all out there today. Can you imagine literally beating a child with a rod? Probably wondering what this is all about. Well, this is the closest thing I can get to a rod as possible. I would say this is aluminum. If someone beat me with a rod and I didn't defend myself, I'm sure I would either die or have serious injuries. Think about it. To be beaten with a rod, especially a small child, beaten with a rod, I am sure there would be some consequences there. The poor kid would be really, really hurt. The husband to one of the women I've counseled asked me to do a sermon on corporal punishment. Makes perfect sense to me to do this, even though this is going to be difficult for me to do. I have counseled others who have issues in their adult life due to them experiencing corporal punishment during childhood. Now, I am going to get into describing my own research on the subject. This is 10 years of really, really digging in deep on this. My own research on the effects of corporal punishment of children. Here we go. Approximately 10 years ago, I read an online news story about a male boss who spanked his female employees for making mistakes. In the comments section of the article, people posted what they wanted to say. To my surprise, most of those who had posted responses said they actually enjoy being spanked as adults. So I asked some of these people if they like pain. One person called me mentally ill since I didn't understand why they enjoyed being hit. I have interviewed many people who were spanked as a child that are now into sadomasochism, because they confuse love with pain. These people say they need to have pain inflicted on them in order to have satisfying sex. Because of this, many marriages have ended in separation or divorce because their spouses refuse to participate in sex this way. So they found other people who would. This would usually take place in motels or S&M clubs. Yes, there are S&M clubs. Several instruments are used, such as paddles, whips, canes, and belts, and also the hand as well. Besides enjoying the pain of being hit, these people thrive on the embarrassment and humiliation that goes with being punished. Other activities includes a bar of soap in the mouth of the one being punished, hot sauce on the tongue, hot candle wax dripping on their backs, and standing bare bottom in the corner for 15 minutes to be humiliated. Some people prefer to be gagged and tied up while being caned, whipped, or spanked. Some people prefer to be hit until they develop welts on their body. That's quite extreme. Some even prefer to become severely injured, not being able to sit for 3 or more days. Over 90% of the 50 people I've interviewed told me they've developed a spanking fetish because they were either spanked as children themselves or saw other children being spanked. Most of them said they would never spank their own children because they know that spanking a child's buttocks is sexual. That's because the genital area is very close to the buttocks. Need I say more on that? I don't think I have to give a whole anatomy lesson here. They also have come to the realization that they have confused themselves with love and pain after their parents hugged them after they were spanked. There are many spanking fetish and S&M websites. The age range of people I have interviewed are between 47 and 60. 2 of these people are now divorced. One recently became separated, and another whose marriage is in danger as a man's wife found out about his S&M activities. Many of these people I have interviewed are, sad to say, Christians. Many of them being Lutheran and Catholic. Oh boy. I dated a coworker years ago at one of my jobs. He told me he would purposely do bad things as a child in order to get a spanking because that aroused him. He would tell me to actually beat him up. I ended that relationship fast. The way the human anatomy is, the buttocks are close to the genital area, as I mentioned before. Even children can experience a certain degree of arousal getting a spanking when the buttocks are repeatedly hit. This is dangerous territory. When I'm in a store and I see a mother hitting or yelling at their children, I feel anxiety. It's very disturbing seeing a scene like that. Very disturbing to me. Wait till you hear this. This gets even more disturbing. I spoke to a Christian mother from Kentucky who was spanked herself by her father until age 16. Yeah, your body's very much developed at age 16. Oh, need I say more on that? So I'm trying to keep this clean here. She now spanks her daughter, and I discussed with her the dangers of spanking children. I asked her how she would feel if her kids, when they became adults, if she would like it if they were into S&M and their marriage broke up as a result. Here is her response. And I quote verbatim, word for word, "I don't care what my children do after the age of 18. And it doesn't concern me as to what kind of marriage my children have as adults because they will be out of my hands then." So I asked her, aren't parents supposed to be concerned as to how their children turn out as adults? I thought mothers and fathers were supposed to be concerned how the kids are brought up and how they will act in society. Am I wrong here? Okay. Her answer to my question was, she cussed me out in spades. Boy, did I hear it. And she never spoke to me again. I would say that's a little childish. She couldn't give me a straight answer calmly. But no, she had to act like a little child herself, cuss me out, and then never speak to me again. Maturity at its finest. Okay. Whatever. So, what's the sense of raising children if you don't care how they turn out? I'm sure people are still going to throw daggers at me and cuss me out after my speech here today. Here it comes, ready or not. I'm prepared for it. Out of all the children I babysat, the ones that were spanked, those were the most difficult to handle. They would scream and throw tantrums. One child, while under my supervision, hit me. I told him that hitting is wrong. The child's response was, "Mommy hits me." Okay. The child thought it was acceptable to hit others since his mother hit him as a form of discipline. You hit a child, it's like telling the child, this is what you got to do to get what you want. Hit, 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 hit. No wonder America's so messed up. Okay. I have read one of Dr. James Dobson's books entitled The New Dare to Discipline. It made me sick, literally made me sick reading it, as he specifically states that babies should be whipped as early as 15 months old. Whipped as early as 15 months old, he says. And he hits his dog too, and he's beginning to wonder why his dog was trying to bite him. Okay. Where was I at here? This is very upsetting. Okay. Very upsetting here. Also, Dr. Dobson said that he felt loved being spanked with his mother's girdle that consisted of straps and buckles. Oh boy. Here we go. Love and pain. Pain and love. Oh boy. One shouldn't have anything to do with the other. Okay, where was I? According to the New England Journal of Medicine, between 1,000 and 2,000 children die in this country every year from corporal punishment. I've written to senators and representatives to pass a bill to ban corporal punishment in both schools and in homes. That sure didn't work out. Didn't work out at all. At least I tried. I've also read many articles on Christian anti-corporal punishment websites of testimonies of how people were spanked as children and developed spanking fetishes. Numerous studies show how bad spanking a child is and how spanking leads to violence, low grades in school, antisocial behavior, depression, anger, and rage into adulthood. Rage into adulthood. Yeah. And then they take it out on their kids. Here we go again with the hitting, with the next generation. Okay. Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 24 says, He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Okay, I think this verse is very, very misunderstood. I believe the word rod is used as instruction and guidance. Instruction and guidance. The shepherds would guide their sheep with the rod, instructing them where to go, such as they would take the rod and guide their sheep. I don't think I sincerely don't believe that the shepherds would beat the sheep. Seriously. It's used as guidance, to guide the sheep. And it's not used to beat kids, to guide them, to instruct verbally. Okay. As you will see in the next verse, the word rod pertains to tranquility. Psalm chapter 23 verse 4 reads, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. I don't see any sayings of beatings in that verse. Okay. I can't imagine that Jesus himself would hit a child. If a child wasn't behaving, I'm sure he would put the child on his lap and speak to him or her, giving instruction. Verbal instruction. Is that clear? Matthew chapter 18 verse 6 reads, But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Matthew chapter 19 verse 14 reads, But Jesus said, Suffer the little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven. They're below the age of accountability. They don't completely know right from wrong. When you hit a kid, they're going to remember the hitting, and but remembering what they have done, usually they don't remember what they've done. And when they're so small, like 15 months old, like Dobson said, come on. Being a parent is hard work, and I don't have to be a parent to know that with all the babysitting I have done over the years. I know kids can be in incredible pain at times, but there are other methods of effective, non-violent discipline. I'm a huge fan of the TV show Super Nanny. Her methods never require hitting. Her methods require a lot more patience, but unfortunately, patience is something many parents lack. Too many parents use hitting as they think it will be a quick fix. These parents say, well, I was spanked as a child and I turned out fine. Really? No. They are not fine. Here's why. They are using the same method of discipline by hitting that was done to them. And the cycle continues from one generation to the next. Most people don't even recall what they were spanked for as children. They only remember the pain and humiliation of being spanked. Spanking and other types of hitting is wrong and harmful. It should never be considered as a proper form of discipline. Yeah, and there was a couple of boys that were teasing me in school and hitting me, pushing me against the wall, shoving me, hitting me repeatedly every day in school, and kept going to the principal office to discuss this. My dad called their fathers, and guess what my dad found out? That their normal punishment was getting the belt. In conclusion, I know many people who were never spanked as children, and they grew up to be respectable, loving adults. I say what needs to be said, and however people want to take it or leave it is up to them. I never compromise my convictions. Now, that was all my research. Now I'm going to read what an article says. Spanking and crime rates. Love, not violence. This is from July 15th, 2013 by A.K. in Berlin. Certain kinds of property crimes are up sharply in Germany, as I explain in this week's print issue. But in many ways, the more interesting trend is the ongoing decline in violent crime in Germany, Europe, and much of the developed world. Criminologists have for years been puzzled by this phenomenon, with theories ranging from decreasing numbers of lead poisoning to better policing. But one of the most intriguing theories, and one with vast implications for America in particular, comes from Christian Pfeiffer, the director of the Criminological Research Institute of Lower Saxony in Hanover. Mr. Pfeiffer has found a correlation between declining rates of children being spanked or otherwise punished physically and subsequent decreases in violent crime. In Germany, for example, it used to be common until well into the last century to discipline kids in this way. Not doing so almost amounted to being negligent, but then parents and teachers gradually stopped beating children. When Mr. Pfeiffer's team polled adult Germans in 1992, 26% answered that they had been raised without any physical punishment at all. In the latest poll, soon to be released, that ratio has gone up to 2/3. People who, as children, experienced the powerlessness of frequent spankings report a disproportionately greater interest later in life to own guns. Mr. Pfeiffer says they also demand more draconian prison sentences, including the death penalty for convicted criminals. And they seem more prone to violence themselves. In a study of 45,000 ninth graders Mr. Pfeiffer conducted in 2007-8, those kids who have been beaten by their parents were 5 times as likely to commit repeated crimes or to use cannabis and miss school 4 times more frequently for 10 days a year or more. Scandinavian countries, in part inspired by the children's books of Astrid Lindgren, the author of the popular Pippi Longstocking series, were the first to make spanking illegal for teachers in the 1950s and 60s. Between 1979 and 1983, they also outlawed spanking by parents. Crime rates, gun ownership, and prison populations have been falling since. Who could argue with those statistics? Really. By contrast, spanking is still common in large parts of America, especially in the evangelical milieux of southern states. This is also where crime remains relatively high, gun ownership common, and incarceration excessive. America's incarceration rate is between 8 to 10 times that of northern European countries. Within Europe, countries like Germany followed the Scandinavian example with a law against spanking in 2000, while others like Britain fall somewhere between Europe and America, as so often. Again, Mr. Pfeiffer notices the expected correlations with crime and punishment. Mr. Pfeiffer also observes a connection between religion and child spanking. Even in Germany, there is one tiny group where child spanking is still common and where increasing religiosity leads to more frequent spankings. This group subscribes to a brand of Protestantism similar to that practiced by white American evangelicals. By contrast, for mainline Protestants and Catholics in Germany, increased religiosity leads to a lower probability of spanking. In America in 2006 to 2007, according to Human Rights Watch, more than 200,000 children were beaten by their teachers with a stick as a punishment. They overwhelmingly lived in the southern states and in evangelical families. Boy, is that disturbing. 2 studies in 2010 showed that only 15% of American children are raised by their parents without any physical violence at all. To Mr. Pfeiffer, this is one of admittingly several and complex factors that explain why Americans own more guns, commit more crime, and punish more severely than Western Europeans. The conclusion, suggests Mr. Pfeiffer, is that everybody, including Americans, should try raising kids with what he calls love instead of beatings. There you have it. Take it or leave it. Okay? I choose not to do a blooper segment this time because of the nature of the topic today. I cannot laugh at anything right now. Okay? Not today. This is very disturbing. And what makes it even more disturbing is the people that are going to disagree with me on this. Okay, what can you do? Hopefully I could get through to at least one person with this. We'll see what happens. That's all I can say. So, that concludes today's message, and I'm just glad I was able to get through this. So this concludes my message for today. Everybody, stay safe and have a good day. Bye for now, and hope to see you next time.